Lyra came from a planet far away from Earth, a place where people lived very differently. Her world was quiet and peaceful, filled with technology that made life easy, but it lacked the excitement and danger of the stories she had heard about. Earth. From a young age, Lyra loved listening to tales told by her elders about different worlds, especially about humans. But these stories were strange to her because on her planet, humans were not real people. They were just characters in old myths. Her people believed that human warriors, brave fighters who defended their homes, were just fairy tales made up to teach lessons about courage and strength. They thought humans were too weak to be anything real. Lyra had always been curious about Earth, but she never really believed the stories. She imagined that if human warriors were real, someone would have proven it by now. Still, the idea fascinated her. She dreamed about meeting these legendary warriors and seeing if they really existed. When she finally had the chance to travel to Earth, she felt a mix of excitement and doubt. Could the stories be true? Would she find real human warriors when Lyra arrived on Earth? Everything was new and strange to her. The sky was the same blue color as on her planet, but the air felt different. The trees, the grass, and the buildings all looked strange. People moved quickly and talked loudly. Lyra felt both nervous and excited as she stepped into this new world. She wanted to learn everything she could and see if the humans here were really like the stories she had heard. Lyra quickly realized that life on Earth was not as simple as she thought. People had many different jobs and ways of living. Some were kind and friendly, while others seemed worried or busy. She saw children playing games, adults working, and old people sitting quietly. But she didn't see any warriors yet. No one. Looked like the brave fighters from the stories. She began to wonder if maybe her people were right, that human warriors were just fairy tales. To find out more, Lyra decided to watch people closely. She visited parks, gyms, and training centers, where she heard humans practice different kinds of fighting. She saw people learning karate, boxing, and other martial arts. These places were full of noise and movement. Humans punched, kicked, and jumped with great energy. Lyra was amazed by how focused and determined they looked. Some of them even wore special clothes and belts that showed how skilled they were. Even though the humans trained hard, Lyra still felt unsure. They were strong and fast, but did that make them warriors like in the stories? She wanted to know what made a human warrior special. Was it only skill in fighting, or was there something deeper? Lyra thought a lot about this. She remembered the tales that said human warriors had great courage and protected their people from danger. She wondered if the humans she saw really had that kind of bravery. One day, while visiting a training center, Lyra met a young man named Jake. Jake was different from the others. He was calm and respectful, but also very strong. He noticed Lyra watching and came to talk to her. At first, Lyra was shy and unsure how to speak with a human, but Jake smiled kindly and asked if she wanted to learn more about human warriors. Lyra nodded eagerly. Jake explained that being a warrior was not just about fighting, it was about protecting others, standing up for what is right, and never giving up even when things were hard. He told her stories from his own life about training and challenges he had faced. Listening to Jake, Lyra felt a new feeling inside her, hope. Maybe human warriors were real after all. Over the next days, Jake showed Lyra more about human life. He took her to meet other people who had trained to protect their homes and communities. Lyra learned about teamwork, respect, and courage. She saw how these values were important to humans and how they helped people face danger together. Lyra also began to understand that the stories her people told were only part of the truth. The fairy tales about human warriors were meant to inspire, but the real humans were even more amazing. They were not perfect or invincible, but they had a strong spirit that helped them fight for what they believed in. This spirit was something Lyra had never seen before. As Lyra spent more time with Jake and his friends, she started to feel like she belonged on Earth. The strange planet no longer seemed scary or confusing. Instead, it felt like a place full of life and strength. Lyra's heart was filled with excitement to learn more and to find her own place among the human warriors. Even though Lyra was still new to Earth, she was ready to explore and discover all the secrets of this world. She knew that the stories about human warriors were not just fairy tales, they were real, and she was going to see it for herself. Her journey was only beginning, and Lyra felt ready for whatever came next. Lyra was still learning about Earth and the people who lived here. Every day was full of new experiences and surprises. She was especially curious about Jake, the young man she had met at the training center. Jake was different from anyone Lyra had ever known. He was strong, but not just in body. He had a kind heart and a quiet confidence that made people respect him. Lyra wanted to know more about him and why he was called a warrior. Jake came from a small town near the training center. He had spent many years learning how to fight and protect others. But more than that, he had faced challenges in his life that taught him courage and patience. When Lyra asked him about his journey, Jake didn't just talk about fighting moves. He spoke about how important it was to understand people, to help those who were afraid, and to never lose hope even when things were difficult. At first, Lyra found it hard to believe that someone could be both strong and gentle at the same time. On her planet, strength was often shown through power and control. But Jake showed her that true strength came from kindness and respect. He explained that warriors must have discipline, which means practicing every day and never giving up, but also having compassion for others. Lyra was fascinated. She wanted to learn everything Jake could teach her. One day, Jake invited her to watch a training session with his friends. These people were not just fighters. They were protectors of their community. Lyra saw people of all ages and backgrounds working together. They helped each other improve and celebrated each other's successes. This was very different from the lonely warriors of the stories on her planet. During the training, Lyra noticed something important. The human warriors did not fight to hurt others. They fought to protect themselves and those they cared about. They showed respect to their opponents and believed in fairness. This made Lyra think deeply. The warriors from her planet often used their strength to control others, but humans used theirs to defend and support. Jake saw Lyra's interest and offered to teach her some basic fighting skills. At first, Lyra was nervous. She did not know if her body could move like a human's or if she would be able to learn, but Jake was patient and encouraging. He told her that being a warrior was not about being the strongest, but about having the will to try. Slowly, Lyra began to learn simple moves, how to stand firmly, how to block, and how to stay balanced. It was harder than she expected because her alien body was different. But Jake helped her understand that practice and patience were the keys. When Lyra made mistakes, Jake smiled and said it was part of learning. As the days passed, Lyra's confidence grew. She started to feel a connection to the human warriors she had once doubted. She admired their determination and the way they cared for each other. Jake told her stories of battles he had faced, not just with fists, but with fear and doubt. He said every warrior must fight their own inner battles to become strong. One evening, after a long day of training, Lyra and Jake sat by a small fire. The sky was filled with stars, and the quiet night made everything feel peaceful. Lyra asked Jake why he chose to be a warrior when it was so hard. Jake looked at the stars and said, "Because someone has to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Being a warrior means standing up for what is right, even when it is scary." Lyra thought about this. On her planet, many people stayed safe by ignoring danger or running away. But Jake was different. He faced his fears and helped others do the same. This was the true spirit of a warrior, and Lyra wanted to be part of it. As their friendship grew stronger, Jake introduced Lyra to more people who lived by the same values. Some were soldiers, some were teachers, and others worked in their communities to make life better. Lyra realized that being a warrior was not just about fighting. It was about protecting peace and helping others live safely. One day, Jake took Lyra to a place where humans trained for emergencies. They practiced how to help during accidents or natural disasters. Lyra saw humans working together, using their strength and knowledge to save lives. This showed her another side of human warriors, one that was full of hope and kindness. Lyra began to share her own stories about her planet and how different things were there. Jake listened carefully and told her that learning from each other made them both stronger. He said that the world was full of many kinds of warriors, each with their own ways to be brave. Slowly, Lyra started to believe that the stories of human warriors were not just fairy tales. They were real people who fought for their friends, their families, and their homes. She saw that courage was not about magic or superpowers, but about the heart and mind. The more time Lyra spent with Jake and the human warriors, the more she wanted to join them. She wanted to learn how to protect and care, just like they did. Jake promised to help her on this journey and said that everyone could become a warrior if they had the right spirit. Lyra's world had changed since she first arrived on Earth. The fear and doubt she felt were replaced by hope and excitement. She was no longer an outsider who thought human warriors were just stories. Now she was part of something bigger, a real community of brave people who believed in each other. As the sun set on another day, Lyra looked forward to the challenges ahead. She knew the path of a warrior would not be easy, but with Jake's guidance and her own growing strength, she was ready. For the first time, Lyra truly believed that human warriors were real, and she was beginning to find her own place among them. Lyra felt excited and nervous as she began her training with Jake. Every day was a new challenge. She had never moved her body like this before, and at first, it was difficult. Her alien muscles were different, and the way humans moved was strange to her. But Jake was patient and kind. He showed her how to stand firmly, how to move smoothly, and how to use her strength without wasting energy. At the training center, other warriors watched Lyra with interest. Some smiled and encouraged her, while others were curious about the alien girl who wanted to become a warrior. Lyra felt a little shy, but she kept trying. She wanted to prove that she could learn, even if she was different. Jake explained to Lyra that being a warrior was not just about fighting. It was about understanding one's own body and mind. He taught her that every move had a purpose, and that calmness was just as important as strength. When a warrior rushed without thinking, they could lose, so Jake helped Lyra practice breathing slowly and focusing her thoughts. Lyra loved these lessons. They made her feel stronger inside. She started to see fighting not as something scary, but as a way to protect those she cared about. She remembered the stories Jake told her about courage and bravery. She wanted to be like those warriors who never gave up, even when things were hard. Sometimes training was frustrating. Lyra would try a move many times but not get it right. Her arms would feel tired, and she wanted to quit. But Jake always encouraged her with kind words. He said, "Every warrior faces difficulty. The difference is in who keeps trying." Those words stayed with Lyra and gave her hope. As the days went by, Lyra noticed changes in herself. Her body grew stronger and more flexible. Her mind became sharper, able to focus even when distractions were near. More importantly, her heart felt braver. She was not afraid to face challenges anymore. Instead, she looked forward to them as chances to learn and grow. One day, Jake taught Lyra about strategy. He explained that fighting was not just about power, but also about thinking ahead. A good warrior plans their moves, watches their opponent carefully, and uses the right moment to act. Lyra loved this part of training because it felt like a game of mind and skill. Jake showed her how to watch for clues in an opponent's eyes or body language. He said that a warrior must stay calm and patient, waiting for the perfect time to make a move. Lyra practiced with Jake, trying to notice the smallest signs. It was difficult, but she enjoyed the challenge. Beyond physical training, Jake also taught Lyra about respect. He said that true warriors respect their opponents, their friends, and themselves. Fighting was serious, but it was never about hatred or anger. Lyra learned that a warrior's strength came from kindness as well as courage. Lyra's thoughts often returned to her home planet. There, people used power in a different way, sometimes to control others. But here on Earth, she saw that warriors used their strength to protect and help. This made her proud to be part of this new world. One afternoon, after a long day of practice, Jake invited Lyra to a special meeting. It was a gathering of human warriors from different places. They came to share their experiences and to learn from one another. Lyra listened carefully as they spoke about their struggles and victories. The stories were inspiring. Some warriors spoke about saving their communities from danger. Others told of moments when they faced fear but chose to stand strong. Lyra realized that being a warrior was about much more than fighting. It was about being part of something bigger than oneself. After the meeting, one of the older warriors came to Lyra. He smiled and said, "You have the heart of a warrior. Keep learning, and you will become strong." Those words meant a lot to Lyra. She felt welcomed and accepted, no longer an outsider but a member of a brave family. As her training continued, Lyra and Jake grew closer as friends. They shared stories, dreams, and hopes for the future. Jake was happy to teach, and Lyra was eager to learn. Together, they made a good team. Lyra began to think about how she could use her new skills. She wanted to help people just like Jake did. She dreamed of protecting her new home and the friends she had made. This gave her more motivation to keep training. One evening, after a long day, Lyra looked at the sky. The stars were bright, and she felt a deep sense of peace. She thought about how far she had come since arriving on Earth. From doubting human warriors to wanting to become one herself, her journey was changing her in ways she never expected. Lyra knew that there were still many challenges ahead. Training would get harder, and she would face tests that would push her limits. But she was ready. With Jake by her side and the lessons she had learned, she believed she could become a true warrior. Her heart was full of hope and determination. The alien girl who once thought human warriors were just fairy tales was now living the reality of what it meant to be brave, strong, and kind. And this was only the beginning. One day, while Lyra was training with Jake and some of the other warriors, the peaceful life they enjoyed was suddenly threatened. A strong storm had damaged part of their town, causing danger to many people. Trees were broken, and power was lost. It was a serious problem that needed quick action. Everyone was worried, but the warriors knew they had to help. Lyra felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was the moment she had been waiting for, a real test to see if she could use what she had learned. She remembered Jake's words about courage and protecting others. Even though her heart was pounding, she knew she had to be brave. Jake quickly organized a group to help those who were hurt and to make sure everyone was safe. Lyra joined the team without hesitation. Together, they moved through the streets, checking on neighbors, clearing fallen branches, and giving comfort to those in need. Lyra saw many people scared and confused. Children were crying, and adults were worried about their homes and families. Lyra felt a strong desire to help them. She used the skills Jake had taught her, staying calm, thinking clearly, and working with others. At one point, they found an elderly woman trapped in her house by fallen debris. Jake and Lyra worked together to carefully move the heavy pieces blocking the door. Lyra's strength surprised her, and she felt proud to be able to help. When the woman was safe, she smiled gratefully, and Lyra knew she had made a difference. During the storm's aftermath, Lyra also learned how important it was to listen and support others. Some people were angry or scared, and they needed someone to understand their feelings. Lyra talked quietly with a young boy who had lost his pet during the storm. She comforted him by sharing stories about her own home and how sometimes, even in dark times, hope could shine through. As the day went on, Lyra's courage grew. She saw that being a warrior was not only about fighting, but also about caring for the community. Warriors helped people stand up again when things went wrong. This idea was new and beautiful to Lyra. The teamwork among the warriors and townspeople was inspiring. Everyone worked together, no matter their age or strength. Lyra was proud to be part of this effort. She understood now that true bravery came from helping others, even when it was hard or scary. After the storm passed, the town slowly began to heal. Lyra and Jake helped organize supplies and repairs. People thanked them for their courage and kindness. Lyra realized that warriors were heroes, not because they fought battles alone, but because they stood with their people through every challenge. One evening, tired but happy, Lyra sat with Jake by a small fire. They talked about what had happened. Jake told her that real warriors faced many kinds of battles, not just with enemies, but with nature, fear, and loss. He said, "Strength is more than muscles. It's the heart to keep going and the will to protect others." Lyra thought about how far she had come. She had arrived on Earth as a stranger, unsure if human warriors were real. Now, she had seen their courage and kindness in action. She felt proud to call herself one of them. This experience changed Lyra deeply. She knew that her journey was not just about learning to fight, but about becoming part of a community that cared and stood strong. Together, she felt stronger inside and more connected to the people around her. Lyra also understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. She was no longer afraid to face challenges. Instead, she welcomed them as chances to grow and help others. As days turned into weeks, Lyra continued her training with new purpose. She practiced harder, knowing that the real test was to be ready when her community needed her. She listened more, learned from others, and shared her own experiences. Jake was proud of Lyra's progress. He saw how she had grown from a curious visitor into a brave warrior. He reminded her that the path of a warrior was long and sometimes difficult, but it was always worth it. Lyra smiled and said she was ready. She felt a deep sense of belonging on Earth, among people who valued courage, kindness, and strength. The alien girl who once thought human warriors were just fairy tales had now become one of them. Her story was no longer about doubt or fear. It was about hope, courage, and the power of standing together. Lyra knew that many adventures awaited her, and she was ready to face them with an open heart and strong spirit. After the storm had passed and the town was slowly healing, Lyra felt a deep sense of peace inside her. She looked around at the people she had come to know and care about. These humans were no longer strangers to her. They were friends, teachers, and warriors. She thought about how much she had changed since arriving on Earth. At first, she had thought that human warriors were just fairy tales, stories told to inspire courage, but not real. Now, she knew the truth. They were very real, and they were extraordinary. Lyra wanted to share her story. She wanted to tell others, both on Earth and back on her home planet, what she had learned about bravery, kindness, and strength. She hoped that by sharing her journey, more people would understand what it truly meant to be a warrior. One day, Lyra stood before a small crowd gathered in the town square. She told them about her home and how humans had been stories to her before. She spoke about her doubts, her fears, and how meeting Jake and the other warriors changed her heart. The people listened carefully, inspired by her honesty and courage. Lyra explained that warriors were not perfect heroes. They made mistakes, faced fears, and sometimes felt weak. But what made them warriors was their willingness to keep going, to protect others, and to stand together. Her words touched many hearts. Some people thanked her for reminding them of their own strength, while others felt hopeful about the future. The story did not stop there. Lyra's journey inspired a new understanding between her people and the humans of Earth. Messages were sent back to her home planet, sharing her experiences and the lessons she had learned. Slowly, the myths about human warriors began to change. They were no longer just fairy tales, but stories of real people who showed courage in many ways. Lyra knew that she was part of something bigger now, a bridge between two worlds. She felt proud that she could help others see that bravery and kindness were not limited to one planet or one species. These qualities belonged to all beings who chose to stand up for what was right. As time passed, Lyra continued to train and grow as a warrior. She learned new skills, faced new challenges, and made new friends. Each day brought new lessons and new opportunities to help others. She found joy in teaching younger warriors and sharing what she had learned about courage and respect. Lyra and Jake remained close friends and partners. Together, they worked to protect their community and to prepare for whatever challenges might come. Their friendship was a reminder that true strength comes not only from skill but also from trust and support. Lyra often thought about the stories she had heard as a child. She smiled, knowing that sometimes fairy tales can hold a deeper truth. The human warriors she once thought were just stories were very real, and now she was one of them. Her journey showed that belief can change, and that understanding grows when we open our hearts and minds. Lyra's story was one of hope and courage, proving that even the greatest doubts can be overcome with friendship, learning, and a brave spirit. The alien girl who had arrived on Earth full of questions had found her answer. Human warriors were not just fairy tales. They were real, living examples of courage and kindness. And Lyra was proud to be a part of their story, a story that would continue to inspire for many years to come.